There comes a point when carrying the hurt feels heavier than the hurt itself, and that is often the moment your healing quietly begins. You may have spent so much time holding what wounded you that it started to feel like part of your skin. Not because you wanted that, not because you enjoy suffering, but because pain can become familiar, and familiar things are strangely hard to release, even when they ache. You tell yourself you are just remembering. You tell yourself you are staying careful. You tell yourself you are being wise now, and sometimes that is true. But sometimes what you call caution is only an old wound asking to remain in charge. That is such a human thing. You can know something hurt you and still be unable to stop living around it. You can understand with your mind that a moment is over while your body still waits for it to happen again. You can be safe now and still feel braced. You can be loved now and still expect withdrawal. You can be offered peace and still reach for tension, because tension has been your longest companion. This does not mean you are broken. It means you learned to survive in a way that made sense when the pain was fresh. And survival patterns are loyal. They do not ask whether you are still in danger. They ask whether this feels familiar enough to trust. That is why some people keep replaying a conversation that ended months ago. That is why they reread old messages, rehearse imagined arguments, revisit the same memory from 10 different angles, hoping that one more pass through the pain will finally turn it into clarity. But pain does not always become wisdom through repetition. Sometimes repetition only makes pain more fluent. Stay with me here, because this is where the shift begins. The shift is not in pretending the hurt did not matter. The shift is not in forcing yourself to be positive. Evie, the shift is not in rushing toward forgiveness just to feel spiritually impressive for 5 minutes. No, the real shift is quieter than that. It is the moment you realize that holding on is not the same as honoring what happened. It is the moment you see that you can remember without reliving, learn without hardening, and protect yourself without keeping the wound on a throne. That is the paradox at the heart of healing. You do not make peace by worshiping the pain. You make peace by making room for something gentler than pain to live beside the truth. You let go, not because the wound was small, but because your life is meant to become larger than the wound. And that may be the sentence your heart has been waiting to hear. Because part of you has likely believed that if you soften, you will lose your proof. If you stop carrying the hurt so fiercely, maybe it will seem like it did not matter. Maybe it will feel like you let someone off the hook. Maybe it will look like weakness. Maybe it will mean the hurting version of you is being abandoned. So you grip the memory tighter. You stay in conversation with what happened. You keep checking the bruise. You keep asking the past to explain itself one more time. But sweetheart, a bruise does not heal faster because you press it all day. And you know this in your bones. You know the exhaustion of carrying old hurt into new mornings. You know what it is like to wake up already tense, to hear one small tone in someone's voice and feel your whole system rush into defense, to think, I thought I was over this, to feel embarrassed by your sensitivity and then hurt by the embarrassment, to wonder whether healing is for other people, calmer people, people who did not feel things this deeply. Let me say something clearly. The depth of your feeling is not the problem. The problem is when your pain becomes the only language you trust. Then every neutral moment feels suspicious. Every kind gesture feels temporary. Every opening feels like a setup for loss. And slowly, without meaning to, you begin organizing your inner life around prevention instead of presence. That is exhausting. It is also common. Psychologically, this happens because the mind is built to remember emotionally charged experiences. Strong pain captures attention. It teaches the nervous system, this mattered. Watch for this. Do not miss this again. Behavioral science has long shown that negative experiences tend to leave a stronger impression than positive ones. A pattern often described as negativity bias. That does not mean you are doomed to see the world through hurt. It means your system is trying to protect you by highlighting what once felt dangerous. Spiritually, many people experience something similar in different language. They feel that unprocessed pain becomes a kind of inner clutter. It does not disappear just because time passes. It lingers in the body, in expectations, in self-talk, in the rooms you build inside your own heart. And how God here is what most people miss. Protection and peace are not the same thing. Protection says, never relax again. Peace says, learn what safety actually feels like now. Protection says, keep every scar visible. Peace says, let the scar teach you without asking it to run your life. Protection says, rehearse the injury. Peace says, return to the present. Neither part of you is evil. One is scared, one is wise. Healing often begins when the scared part stops being shamed and starts being led. That is why I want to offer you a very simple framework for this moment in your life. Not a productivity system, not a spiritual performance, not another perfect routine you will try for 2 days and then glare at from across the room like it betrayed you. Something kinder than that. I call it the clear space practice. 3 steps. Notice, loosen, welcome. Notice is the step where you gently tell the truth about what still hurts and how it is showing up now, not yesterday, not in theory, now, in your chest, in your thoughts, in your habits, in the little flinches nobody sees. This step is not dramatic, it is honest. Loosen is the step where you stop gripping the pain as your only form of self-protection. You are not ripping anything away. You are softening your hold. You are allowing space between you and the story that keeps repeating. You are remembering that a feeling can move without taking your whole identity with it. Welcome is the step where you make room for what heals instead of only tracking what hurts. This could be rest. It could be honesty. It could be a calmer rhythm. It could be a boundary. It could be prayer. It could be one decent breath after a hard moment. The point is not to manufacture bliss. The point is to become available to what nourishes you. Notice, loosen, welcome, simple, gentle, real. And before your mind says, that sounds too easy, let me say this. Healing practices are not ineffective because they are simple. They are often powerful because they are repeatable. A complicated method can impress you. A simple method can actually stay with you on an ordinary Tuesday when your emotions are loud and your patience is missing. So let us bring this into life. Notice begins in very small moments. Maybe someone does not reply right away, and you feel that old rush in your body. Maybe a familiar loneliness visits in the evening, and suddenly your mind starts writing a whole tragic screenplay with lighting, costumes, and unnecessary dramatic pauses. Maybe you hear yourself thinking, "Here it is again. I always end up here." In that moment, notice does not ask you to fix anything. It asks you to name what is happening with kindness. You might say to yourself, "I feel the old hurt waking up. I feel fear trying to take the lead. I feel myself preparing for pain before anything has actually happened." That matters. Research on emotional regulation has shown that naming emotions can help reduce their intensity for many people. Why? Because what is named becomes more observable. It is no longer a giant weather system with no beginning and no end. It becomes an experience you are having, not the total definition of who you are. So when you notice, you are not minimizing yourself. You are giving yourself a steadier place to stand. Try this in real time. Put one hand somewhere grounding your chest, your arm, your neck. Nothing fancy. Then quietly name the feeling as specifically as you can. Not just bad, not just off. Is it grief? Is it fear? Is it shame? Is it disappointment? Is it that old ache of not feeling chosen? Specificity creates space. Space creates choice. And sometimes the most honest thing you can notice is this: I am not upset only about this moment. I am upset because this moment touched an older place in me. That sentence alone can save you from turning one hard minute into a whole night of suffering. Now we move to loosen. Loosen is not about becoming detached in the cold, superior sense. It is not pretending you do not care. It is not floating 3 feet above your life, speaking in a peaceful whisper while your nervous system is doing cartwheels behind your left eye. Loosen is warmer than that. It says, I do not have to grip this thought so tightly. I do not have to obey every alarm. I do not have to feed the story just because it knocked on the door. This is where you experiment with small acts of release. You pause before rereading the message. You step outside before answering in anger. You delay the mental trial you were about to hold at 2 in the morning. You sit on the edge of the bed and ask, what am I assuming right now, and is that assumption helping me? Not every thought deserves a full legal defense. There is your little humor beat, because truly some thoughts enter the room wearing a fake mustache and a dramatic cape, and we still hand them a microphone like they are qualified experts. They are not. They are often just scared guesses in costume. Loosen means you stop treating every inner reaction like sacred prophecy. One practical experiment here is the gentle delay. When you feel the urge to spiral, wait 2 minutes before following it, not to suppress it, to witness it. Set a timer if you need to. During those 2 minutes, breathe naturally. and look around the actual room you are in. Name 5 things you can see. Feel your feet. Ask your body, what do you need right now that is simpler than this story? Water, quiet, movement, a hand on your heart, distance from your phone. You are teaching yourself that urgency is not always truth. Another experiment is to change the sentence. When the mind says, "This always happens," try, "This feels familiar." When it says, "I will never heal from this," try, "This is a hard moment, and I am learning a new response." When it says, "I cannot let this go," try, "I do not have to let it all go at once." Language matters, not because magical words erase pain, but because your inner sentences shape your inner climate. And then comes welcome. This is where many people get stuck because they understand how to monitor pain, but not how to receive healing. They know how to scan for what is wrong. They know how to anticipate disappointment. They know how to stay alert, but receiving care, peace, softness, or goodness can feel awkward, suspicious even. You may think, if I relax, something bad will happen. If I enjoy this moment, I will jinx it. If I trust this calm, I will be made a fool. My love, that is not intuition. That is old pain trying to keep its job. Welcome asks a different question. Instead of, "What can hurt me?" it asks, "What helps me return to myself?" Notice how different that is. Not what distracts you, not what makes you look healed, what actually helps you return. For some people, it is a slower morning with no immediate rush into old thoughts. For some, it is writing one true sentence in a journal. For some, it is sitting near a window for 5 quiet minutes. For some, it is saying no sooner. For some, it is prayer spoken without performance. For some, it is choosing not to explain their wound to someone who has not earned the right to hear it. For some, it is music that softens the ribs from the inside. For some, it is a walk where nothing gets solved and something still settles. Welcome can be very small. In fact, it often should be. Try this experiment. At the end of one day, ask yourself, what eased me, even a little, not what fixed me, what eased me, then make room for 1 more minute of that tomorrow. Healing is often less dramatic than you thought. It may arrive as reduced friction, as one softer response, as one less replay, as one moment in which you do not abandon yourself while feeling something difficult. That counts. It counts more than the grand speeches you give yourself and forget by lunch. Another practical invitation is to create a release ritual that takes less than 3 minutes. You could place your hand on your heart and say, "I release what I no longer need to carry tonight." You could wash your hands slowly and let that become a physical symbol of completion. You could open a window and take 3 unforced breaths. You could write 1 sentence you are done rehearsing and tear it up. These are not magic tricks. They are signals, and the body responds to signals. Repeated gently, they tell your system, "We are learning a different way now." Now I know what you might be thinking. What if the hurt is real and ongoing? What if life is actually hard right now? What if I cannot simply welcome peace because there are still real reasons to feel guarded? Of course, this is not about pretending circumstances do not matter. Discernment matters, bound. Aries matter. Honest grief matters. The clear space. Practice is not asking you to become naive. It is asking you not to confuse pain with loyalty. It is asking you not to make suffering your only proof that something mattered. You can leave a door closed and still let peace in. You can acknowledge harm and still refuse to build your identity around being harmed. You can be wise without being permanently armored. That difference matters more than most people realize. Because armor is useful for impact, not for everyday living. If you wear it all the time, even love sounds distant, even joy feels muffled, even your own intuition becomes hard to hear under all the clanging. So some days, healing is simply this: taking off one unnecessary piece of armor in a room that is actually safe. Not all of it, one piece. Maybe today that piece is the assumption that everyone will disappoint you. Maybe it is the habit of replaying what you should have said. Maybe it is the need to look unaffected. Maybe it is the reflex to pull away the moment tenderness appears. Maybe it is the private belief that being hard on yourself will keep you from being hurt by others. Let that one go first. You do not have to clear the whole forest tonight. You only need enough space for one honest breath, one clearer thought, one kinder choice. And now we arrive at the part that matters most. You are allowed to stop carrying old pain like it is your final duty. You are allowed to stop proving that it hurt. You are allowed to stop revisiting the scene to make your suffering legitimate. You are allowed to stop performing strength in the language of tension. You are allowed to stop calling exhaustion wisdom. You are allowed to stop making your wound introduce you. Let me say that again in a different way. You do not owe endless suffering to your past. What happened matters. Your feelings matter. The version of you who lived through it matters deeply. But honoring that version of you does not require dragging them through the same fire every day to prove you remember. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for the self who hurt is to say, "Come here. You do not have to keep standing guard. I am with you now. We can put this down in parts. We can rest without betraying the truth." That is not weakness. That is leadership. Inner leadership. Tender leadership. The kind that does not scream, but changes everything. Because what you are really doing in that moment is ending an old arrangement. The arrangement where pain got to be the loudest voice in the room. The arrangement where fear got final say. The arrangement where every future experience had to report to an old wound before entering your life. No more. Not because you are suddenly untouched. Not because healing is complete. Not because you have become some glowing, unbothered saint who never spirals and always drinks enough water. Let us remain humble. But because something wiser in you has decided that hurt does not get permanent ownership, and that decision opens a door. On the other side of that door is not a perfect life. It is something better. It is a more honest one, a life where peace is not postponed until every question is answered, a life where your nervous system slowly learns that calm is not a trick, a life where you notice beauty without immediately apologizing for it, a life where rest stops feeling irresponsible, a life where connection becomes easier to recognize because you are no longer only fluent in tension. This is what becomes possible when you make room for what heals. You begin to feel the difference between intensity and truth. You begin to notice that not every strong feeling is an instruction. You begin to trust the quiet things. You begin to recognize that peace often has a softer voice than pain, which is why you must become willing to listen for it. You begin to understand that your life does not need to be built around old injuries in order to have depth. You begin to see that gentleness is not the opposite of strength. It is often strength after it has learned it no longer needs to prove itself. And here is one final layer I want to leave with you. Letting go is rarely a single dramatic event. More often, it is a series of sacred little choices. A choice not to reopen the conversation in your head. A choice to leave the question unanswered for tonight. A choice to stop checking whether the bruise still hurts. A choice to sit in the present long enough to discover that not every moment contains danger. A choice to welcome one kind thing without suspicion, a choice to believe that healing can be quiet and still be real. Those little choices add up. They become a new relationship with yourself. You become someone who still remembers, but does not live inside remembrance. Someone who still feels deeply, but is not ruled by every wave. Someone who can be honest about pain without making pain your home address. Someone who can say, yes, that hurt me, and yes, I am still allowed to heal. That sentence holds a lot of freedom. Yes, that hurt me. Yes, I am still allowed to heal. Not later when everyone understands. Not later when the past makes perfect sense. Not later when you can explain every scar beautifully and without trembling. Now, in this imperfect, human, unfinished moment, now you are allowed to make room. So tonight, or this morning, or whenever these words are finding you, try the clear space practice in one small way. Notice what still aches without turning it into your identity. Loosen your grip on the thought that pain is the only thing keeping you safe. Welcome one thing that helps your body, your heart, or your spirit. Remember that healing has somewhere to land. That is enough for a beginning. And beginnings do not need to be loud to be real. There is a knot. Her reason letting go feels complicated, and it deserves compassion. Sometimes pain has become the place where you still feel connected to who you used to be. The hurt becomes a thread. If you release it, you worry you might also lose the part of you that was sincere, hopeful, devoted, or brave before everything changed. So you keep the pain close because it feels like the last remaining evidence that your love was real, that your effort was real, that your innocence was real. But the truth is gentler than that. Pain is not the only container for what was precious in you. Your tenderness did not disappear when you were disappointed. Your sincerity did not disappear when trust was broken. Your worth did not disappear when someone failed to handle your heart with care. And your future does not have to stay chained to the moment that injured your faith in life. What was beautiful in you before the hurt is still beautiful in you now. It may be tired, it may be guarded, it may be waiting with its arms crossed in the corner, giving you a look that says, "Really? You brought me here again? Fair enough." But it is still there. Healing is not creating value from nothing. It is returning to what has always been alive underneath the fear. That is why self-respect becomes so important here. Not the loud version of self-respect that performs confidence and pretends it never cries. The quieter version, the version that says, "I will not keep handing my inner life to what wounded me. I will not keep arranging my days around one old ache. I will not keep calling self-abandonment loyalty. I will not keep treating peace as something I have to earn through enough suffering." This kind of self-respect changes your choices in small ways first. You stop entering conversations already prepared to lose yourself. You stop over-explaining your needs to people committed to misunderstanding them. You stop chasing clarity from those who created confusion as a lifestyle. You stop assuming that the familiar ache is the truest thing in the room. You stop negotiating with patterns that have already shown you their shape. And when you do that, something subtle begins to happen. Your energy comes home. You can practice this especially in the moments that used to hook you fastest. When silence from another person used to send you spiraling, see if you can pause and ask, "What do I know for sure right now?" Only what you know, not what you fear, not what your history suggests. Only what is here. When self-criticism arrives and begins its usual dramatic monologue, see if you can interrupt it with one grounded sentence. "I do not need to attack myself to stay aware." When you feel the pull to revisit the same wound for the 100th time, ask a different question. What am I hoping to receive from this replay? And is there a kinder way to receive it? Often the answer is yes. Maybe what you want is reassurance. Maybe it is grief. Maybe it is anger with a safe exit. Maybe it is the feeling of being held in your own understanding. Maybe it is permission to stop asking the past for a final explanation it may never provide. That last one matters. Because many people stay emotionally tied to pain while waiting for complete understanding, they think, "Once I know why it happened, then I will be free. Once they admit what they did, then I can move on. Once I can make the whole story neat and meaningful, then the ache will soften." Sometimes insight helps, of course it does, but complete explanation is not always available. And if your peace depends on every missing piece being returned to you, someone else may keep holding the key to your inner life. You deserve a freedom that does not require perfect closure. Sometimes closure is not an answer. Sometimes it is a decision to stop auditioning the pain for a permanent role, a decision to stop checking whether the old wound still deserves center stage, a decision to let unanswered things remain unanswered while you keep choosing what supports your life now. That may feel unfamiliar. It may even feel rude at first. There is a strange part of healing where peace can feel almost irresponsible because you got so used to vigilance. you may catch yourself having a softer day and think, wait, am I forgetting something? Should I be more upset? Should I be reviewing the evidence? Should I be preparing for disappointment? And the answer, darling, is probably no. You are not forgetting. You are recovering. Please notice the difference. Recovery is not indifference. Recovery is not denial. Recovery is not weakness. Recovery is your system learning that it does not have to sound the alarm every time life becomes quiet. And quiet may be one of the hardest things to trust when you have lived with inner noise for a long time. Quiet can feel empty, exposed, uncertain, but eventually quiet becomes spacious, then restful, then sacred, then familiar. And one day you realize you are no longer reaching for pain just to feel something recognizable. You are beginning to recognize yourself in peace. That is a beautiful turning. Not flashy, not performative, just deeply beautiful. So when you leave this moment, do not measure your healing by whether the hurt vanishes immediately. Measure it by whether you are becoming less willing to abandon yourself in response to the hurt. Measure it by whether you can notice more quickly when old pain is driving. Measure it by whether you can soften one reaction, question one fearful assumption, receive one true comfort, choose one honest boundary. Those are real signs of change. Small, yes, but real. And real is enough, little by little, gently. If this landed somewhere tender in you, stay with that. Sit with it for a moment. Return to one sentence that felt like truth. Let it keep you company after the noise fades. There is more healing available than the hurt has led you to believe, and it often enters quietly. Carry this with you. I can let go of what hurt me without letting go of myself. And as you keep walking, let this be true too. When you make room for what heals, you do not erase your past. You finally stop asking it to be your future.